When I reach the top, rather than jumping all the way down or just dropping, I can come down. I can use back the same color holes, or I can use these big, large holes for additional support. And then only do my safety fall. I land on my feet, bend my knees, tuck my arms, and roll back. So this is what we call a safe way of falling in. Rather than giving up, he went back to it. And then after, when he reached that same difficult section, you could see him pause. He looked around. He was testing out, try different ways. And then after that, when he realized that, I have to go like full span, he took a breath on the wall. He looked down, he took a deep breath on the wall, and then he made that move. He committed fully to that move. And when he completed that route, he came down with the biggest smile on his face. And you could see how proud he was of himself,
This podcast shares personal stories and professional insights, but it's not a substitute for medical advice or therapy. If you're looking for support, do speak to someone qualified and trained in child development or special needs care. You'll find the full disclaimer on the screen and in the show note.
Welcome to Adapting Together podcast. This podcast aims to empower, support, and inspire families with neurodivergent children. I am Carmen, and together with Kevin, will be your co-host today episode. If you've been following our podcast, you may remember that in our first anniversary episode, we share our plans for this year. Who are the people that we would invite? Besides of inviting doctors, therapists, and counselors, we also wanted to bring in guests to talk about additional activities that can support our children beyond their therapy session. So one question that I often hear from parents, they always ask this question like, Carmen, what is my child good at? Or Carmen, what is my child's talent? Why they ask this question? I think many of them would like to find out as quickly as possible so that they can nurture this skill. Whether it could be singing, music, drawing, swimming, or any other activity. However, even with me working with the children for the past 20 years, I would say that it's not something that we can identify the child's strengths right away. Often children need time, to expose to different exposure. And then before we come to know and identify their strength. So if you are watching our recording, you will see our set up today, the place where we are in.
Did we come to the wrong place?
It's too nice to be true. And we are honored to have our guest, Dr. Cheryl, here with us to share more about how rock climbing support our children on the spectrum. So before we moving to maybe at this time, Dr. Cheryl can share with us a little bit about your background and how you can became a rock climbing coach.
Okay. Hello, everyone. As Carmen mentioned, I come from a medical background and I practiced medicine for about 10 years. And then during the COVID period, I started finding myself kind of burnt out, and over time, as things started opening up after COVID, I started questioning what I wanted long term. And that was when I discovered climbing. So initially it started off very casual as a way to decompress, and then I realized quickly how good it was for me, not just physically but mentally as well. So what drew me in was that climbing was one of the few activities where thinking and moving happen at the same time. But what you're thinking about is not about your worries, external factors. It's just you and the wall. It's problem solving. It's taking things one step at a time. And I found myself just naturally drawn to it and then naturally sharing it with a lot of other people because of how much it helped me. So fast forward to a couple of years later, after I've been climbing consistently myself, I was introduced to a new opportunity about a new climbing gym opening, which is this place. So, and I heard about a dedicated space for kids, which is where we're in right now, Batu Kids. And I just shot my shot and applied for the job. And then that's where I transitioned into working in the climbing industry and then just transitioned into coaching. So now I do coaching, like I would say, almost full time. And yeah, so that's how I stepped into coaching.
Wow. So to do as a medical doctor is already challenging enough. It's not enough for you. You want to continue climbing.
Because it's fun.
Okay. So I hear you say that you explored this because during COVID time, you probably realized that you're working too hard. That's what we call burnout also, right?
Yeah.
And then somehow there are many things for you to try or explore.
Yeah.
What do you think actually inspired you to start working with children from what you learned about climbing? How do it relate to, I want to work with children but not so much about adults?
I see. So for me, I've always loved working with kids. Even since before I entered medicine, I've always had a soft spot for children. And when I started doing housemanship, I realized very quickly that it was a little bit too emotional for me. When I considered pediatrics as a specialty, it was a little bit too emotional seeing kids struggle every day, ill kids, it's very different in a hospital setting. Over here, you see happy kids. They are excited. They are usually very enthusiastic. But then in a medical setting, they're usually in a lot of pain. They come crying. So I did enjoy working with them, but this feels more uplifting for me.
It pains your heart to see the children that you care came to you when they are not feeling well.
Yes.
Compared to they came here very looking forward
Correct.
to do what they want to do here.
Correct. And then you are there like to support. And also with patients, sick children, it's touch and go. You see them when they're sick. You don't really see them when they're healthy. I mean, obviously in the hospital you discharge only when you're well, but you don't really get to see their personalities come out.
Yeah.
You don't really get to see their growth and development as they go along. So during after my housemanship, I actually spent some time in klinik Ibu dan Anak Muka in Sarawak. And it was during this period of time that I was exposed to a lot of children from different backgrounds and with a lot of developmental differences as well. So we're talking congenital health issues, we're talking developmental delay issues, poor socioeconomic background. So a lot of this factor into their development in life. And being in a district, the medical officers there, we were very much involved in the home visits, in the multidisciplinary team visits where we work with pediatricians, occupational therapists, physiotherapists to give them like an all-rounded wholesome care. So that experience gave me a much deeper understanding into not just what the children go through, but the realities of the families as well. And so when I transitioned into climbing, then obviously we started receiving a lot of inquiries of, is my child old enough to join climbing? And then when it comes to special needs, some of them were referred by either their pediatricians or OT-PTs, and then they asked if they could come climbing or not. And that's when I realized that there weren't many programs that were locally, tailored for this group of children. And it was then a decision that, like, since I have the background and also the willingness and the heart for these children, so that's how I started getting into it. And then over time it became the work that I do.
Yeah, I remember actually before pandemic, some of my clients also started rock climbing. Yeah, a lot of them started, and then but definitely finding a right coach is very difficult. So whenever there will be a coach that can guide, then everybody will go to this particular coach. And after pandemic and recently, how I get to know Cheryl is actually a client of mine actually engaged with you, and then from the feedback was so good. Then I'm like, this lady is very special, because
you.
first thing is teaching neurotypical kids rock climb sometimes also not easy because there's so many things that you need to encounter, right? And then moreover with our kids on the spectrum, the person has to be very, very patient. And then not only one feedback, 2, 3, 4, 5 feedback that is come to almost at the same time. Then I noticed that I really want to know more and find out more from this coach, who is this? Then only found out that, hey, you actually have a medical background. And because of your experience of working with special needs kids in the clinic and also exposure to OTPT, earlier, and with your knowledge and experience, that helps the coaching become so miraculously,
Fit together.
fit together.
Yes.
And the children all came with very good feedback. They like working, learning from Cheryl, and things like that. So it is amazing. Yeah, I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to be able to be here and have this chat with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also very happy to be able to for all the experiences to come together. And I feel very fortunate that all the life experiences that I've been through led me to be able to provide this support for the children, because it's definitely not easy, like you said, finding a suitable coach.
Yeah, correct.
And to be able to, I think, not just teach the children but to connect with them. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes understanding. And if not for the things that the amazing people I work with back in Muka, I definitely would not have the insights that I have today. It took a lot of speaking to them and observing how they work as well.
Yeah. Okay.
We are where we are eventually, right? At the right place at the right time. at the right moment.
Yeah.
Dr. Cheryl, for parents who may not be familiar, could you kindly walk us through what is the difference between rock climbing and bouldering?
Okay, so rock climbing is actually an umbrella term. So when people talk about rock climbing, people usually picture very, very high walls, and then you have to wear the rope, tie the rope, wear the harness, So, but actually rock climbing has many subdivisions under it. So bouldering is actually one of it, where the walls, as you can see, are typically shorter, around 4 to 5 meters high. In the kids area, it's 3 to 4 meters high. And then instead of using ropes, we use stick padded mats for safety, rather than having the harness and the rope to keep us on the wall. For when you talk about the high walls, those are top rope, lead climbing, or auto belay, when it's the machine that lets you down. So usually this wall is about 10 to 15 meters high, depending on the facility. So both are forms of climbing, just with slightly different setups and experiences. But for younger children and beginners, bouldering is often the most natural and accessible place to start, because the wall is lower, the format is more free and open. You don't have all these extra things attached to you. So they can climb up, they can climb down whenever they want, and then it feels more like they're problem solving, like a little puzzle on the wall like that. So how do I get to the top?
So it's more like a play.
Yeah, so it feels very much like play.
Yeah, because I still remember last time when they want to do, and I think back then bouldering not that popular.
Yes.
A lot of time it's rock climb, and
Yes.
our kids a lot of time they just struggle when the harness is actually attached to them. They feel like, what is
Not
this?
comfortable.
You're not
Yeah,
comfortable. Are you
yeah.
trying to do something back to me? Are you going to
Yes.
restrain my movement and things like that? So I think with the bouldering, it's so colorful.
Yes.
What is that thing called?
What
The
thing?
colorful, all this.
The holds, yes.
That helps to
Yeah.
attract our kids.
Yes,
and the freedom of
definitely.
playing around.
Yes.
Okay. So in your experience, what changes do you see when children start to climb and climbing with you, So like I know that we can talk about areas like focus, even body awareness, attention span, emotional regulation and things like that. Maybe you can share a little bit from your experience and
Okay. Well, I would say climbing helps across all areas. You know, I could go on and on, but I try to keep it short.
Yeah.
So climbing supports a lot of developmental areas at the same time. Because what makes it so effective is that you're doing it, but it doesn't quite feel like therapy. As you say, it kind of feels like play, you know, with the setup, the colors, the different shapes, you know, it keeps you very engaged. From a sensory perspective, many children have different sensory profiles. Some are more sensory seeking. Some are more avoidant, you know. So climbing provides a very structured, predictable input because you can, like I said earlier, you can choose to come down whenever you want. And as you're climbing, you're also learning how to grip, to push, to shift your body weight. But at the same time, it's self-paced. Because if you hit a certain height, for example, or you hit a certain hole that you feel like, oh, I can't hold on to this, or I don't dare to climb higher, you can always choose to come down. So, and then they can come down, regulate themselves, and then when they're ready to try again, they just go back to the wall. Yeah, in terms of body awareness and coordination, climbing directly supports proprioception and motor planning. So for those who are not aware of what proprioception is, it's basically the awareness of where your body is in a certain space. So for example, if I'm tiptoeing, my body is shifting to the left, what do I do? You know, so as you climb more, you are more in tune with what is happening in your body. Every movement requires intention, where you place your hands, where you step, how to shift your weight. And over time, this will naturally build more control and coordination. And then cognitively, I would say focus and attention span definitely increases a lot as well as you regularly come to climb, because it's a problem-solving task. Therefore, the children will stay engaged because they want to figure it out. You want to reach the goal, you know. And with bouldering, it kind of breaks it down into small attainable goals. It's hole by hole. So you may not be able to reach all the way to the top at the very beginning, but you have the next hole just within reach, you know. And over time, you will be more confident, and then it will help you reach the top. And then there's also the natural instinct of self-preservation. I don't want to fall. You know, we will try our best to avoid getting ourselves hurt. Yes, correct. So because of that natural instinct, it fosters focus. You don't have to ask the child to focus anymore. Rather, the activity demands it from you. And as you go along, the longer you're on the wall, the more you do it, your focus and attention span will also increase accordingly. Emotionally, this is very big, I would say, because a lot of people think about the physical aspect of climbing, but I would say climbing, it gives you the space or the opportunity to practice regulation. Because like I mentioned, there's an element of risk, there's an element of fear. But then it's within a safe environment. So over time, the children will learn how to pause and process what they're feeling and then decide how they want to respond. So in a way, it not just builds regulation, but it also builds resilience. And I do have a story about this actually. So as I mentioned earlier, like because with bouldering, it's hole after hole and then you reach the top, right? So I do have this one student where we would always talk about how it's okay for you to stop something and then come back and try it on another time or in another day. And having the holes to visualize like, okay, this is my next goal. This is my next goal. Rather than, you know, like an abstract long-term, like, I want to get stronger. I must be more focused. So these are more clear-cut goals, you know.
Checkpoints for them.
Yes, checkpoints for the children, and it is within their eyesight. So it definitely helps them a lot. So I do have this one student where whenever he reached a difficult point, he would obviously come down, you know, and then we would talk about it and we would do breathing exercises. And over time, you see him approaching the routes differently. He viewed progress not as reaching the top, but he viewed progress as today I reached one hole further than I reached the previous time. Or like at the start of class, I couldn't reach here, now I can reach here, you know. So the gratification also comes a lot quicker, and therefore it helps them build their confidence a lot faster as well.
I think some of the parents can even use that way of explanation in their academic also, right? Like for example, you remember that day you are from this color, to another color, or from this hole to another hole. If you put a bit of effort, you are able to read this amount of words, or this amount of things that you can achieve. So I think it's very visual for them. They just need some very visual target.
Yeah, actually a consistent like a theme that we found throughout the last 20 over episodes of different guests and topics, right, is that in doing things a lot of time we try to accomplish the big objective or goals, and then we forget that actually before we reach there, there's actually a series of smaller goals that actually can keep us engaged and also help us to evaluate whether we are on the right path or not. And a lot of time we actually forget about the between. We are just very deadlocked on the final objective. And when we cannot see we are getting nearer, we can easily question whether what we are doing is right or not. And then that will lead to a lot of people just give up. And when it comes to therapy for children who are on the spectrum, they have so many things to learn. And as a parents, of course, we have expectation, which is right. It's the right thing to have expectation, but sometimes we have to ground ourselves that our long-term expectation is this. However, it all begins from a smaller step. And I think what you described just now is very true for the children and also very important for parents to be aware about, so that we can keep ourselves live on to fight another day.
Correct, yes. And also to give you that sense of that, like, what you're doing is not in vain, it's building blocks, it's the stepping stones to get somewhere eventually.
That keeps people motivated.
So then you mentioned about like socially as well, right? Socially, climbing, if you actually step into a climbing gym, it's very organic. You will hear people cheering on other climbers. You will see people taking turns because we all can't climb the same wall at the same time. So in a way, this naturally the environment teaches the children that all these social skills already, and then also asking for help. Because when you're stuck, sometimes even for us adults, sometimes we get to the difficult portion of the route, and then when we can't figure it out, we will come down and ask the other climbers around us, like, hey, how did you do this part? So then comes the engaging with people around you. So you are able to hone all these skills in a very natural way, rather than teaching the child, like, okay, you sit down and then you talk to this person and then this is how the person responds to you. You just watch it happen, and then eventually you learn through observation.
I especially like this gym, where they actually separate the kids area and the adult, so that and also not too small, or confined. It's just nice enough for the kids to stay within this place, and they can still see their peers. What are they doing? They can still mimic, I know audience, you might be very curious how this place look like, it's really beautiful. We will definitely will bring you, will show you all around after this.
Stay till the end.
Stay tuned to the end. Okay. So I believe also parents will ask you this question: are there any prerequisite, skill a child that needs before joining a rock climb or bouldering?
Okay, definitely we get a lot of these questions. Minimum age is the most common one. But I would say there's no prerequisite skill to a child needs before climbing. You don't need to be strong, contrary to a lot of belief. People always think I need upper body strength, but no, you don't need to be particularly coordinated as well, or confident, because climbing actually helps you build all of that through your sessions. What is more important is the readiness to engage, the readiness to try something new, and obviously things like being able to follow simple instructions, safety measures, and able to participate in a structured activity. I would say, even if it's just for a short period of time, these are just the small basic prerequisites, which comes naturally, I think, to most children already. But for some children, especially the younger ones or those with special needs, we definitely have to start with more support. So getting comfortable with the environment, learning transitions like taking turns, these are things that we can work together. So when it comes to younger age group or kids with special needs, a lot of times we don't dive into the climbing part straight away. We normally will take them around, what attracts you, if they're drawn to a certain wall, let them touch, let them hold, let them see, let them explore first, so like I mentioned earlier, so it's very self-paced. We don't have to push, we kind of just observe the child, and then we teach as you realize that they are more open, they're more ready for it, and then that's where the teaching process begins.
Okay. So that means so long the child can show interest and then
Follow
they
instruction.
can follow instruction, then
yeah.
they are ready to explore and try something new,
Yes.
which may have a lot of good benefit like what you described earlier. So would you also able to share with us like how do children typically respond to challenges or the climbing, as you say, we have to overcome emotions like fear. So how does children, especially on the spectrum one, right?
Yeah.
How do they typically show these emotions and then more importantly overcome these
Okay.
challenges?
So typically, regardless of neurodivergent or neurotypical, it varies from child to child. Everyone has a different threshold and ways of processing what they're feeling, be it happiness, sadness, fear, so it really depends on the child. Some children are able to communicate very clearly. Teacher, I'm tired, or I'm scared, But others may react a little bit more emotionally. You might see them freeze on the wall, you might see them cry, some will call out for help. So these children usually need a little bit more coaxing, a little bit more reassurance, and then you teach them how to come down safely. In some cases, the overwhelm can present as a meltdown or an anger response. It is not uncommon, but usually it's not about the climb itself. It's more about how their nervous system is responding in that moment to a certain stimuli. So what matters most is actually how we support them through it. We don't push them through that fear. We don't, force it on them, but rather we help them through it. So we don't remove the challenge immediately because sometimes you're afraid, but there's still room to try one.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's important to identify like at which point the child is at. Is it at the beginning where they're starting to feel a little bit of fear, and then if you quickly take them down, they'll never get that opportunity to work through overcome that. Yes, correct. So what happens is usually we help them to pause, regulate, and then take it one step at a time, one hole at a time. I do have like experiences with some children who initially when they reach a certain height, they would refuse to climb past that height because this is fear of heights. And even as adults, it's not something that goes away just because someone say like, oh, don't worry, you're safe, the mat is thick, it's soft. Don't worry, you have the rope, just let go, the rope will catch you, but over time, as they do it again and again, it's also exposure therapy. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. So a lot of communication, I think, is important, regardless of how the child reacts. Even if they react very well to it, I would say there's still a lot of communication that has to be done because you want to get into their minds, you want to understand what do you think about this, and then that will get them to start thinking about it as well. So especially when it comes to fear, if you ask them like, why were you afraid, which part scared you, and then you can help them work through the fear in a very concrete manner rather than an emotional manner.
And also from their perspective, but not from our perspective. Like that also you're scared,
Yes,
because we
yes.
understand what they tell us and we use that information to like into their view and guide them along. And that will be a very empowering and powerful coaching.
Yes.
So how do you adapt your coaching approach when different children different level of, we have level one. I think you have client that's level one, level two.
Yes.
I don't know whether you have any
Level
level
three
three.
also got,
wow.
yeah.
Okay. So how do you, how do you choose or manage in terms of this?
I think the first step is always observation, really taking the time to understand the child before you jump into coaching. Because with observation, then only comes understanding.
Yeah.
So when it comes to observation, I look at them across different domains: physical, cognitive, emotional domains, how they process information. Some children are more visual learners. Some respond better to verbal cues, and others, they require more kinesthetic approach. So they learn through movement. When my body is in this position, or I feel like I'm about to fall. When my body is like this, then I feel safe. So, and also when you talk about the emotional aspect, some children who are, for example, physically very strong, but personality-wise a little bit more timid, a little bit more shy, a little bit more afraid to try new things. So the focus will be more on the psychological safety, reassuring them that standing close by to them, maybe a little bit of physical touch would help. So, and then that helps them build their confidence. On the other hand, if you have a child who's more sensory seeking or more adventurous, but maybe doesn't quite have that physical ability that to fit that outgoing personality, what I try to do with them is help them slow down instead, refine the movement, and then develop better control so that they do not attempt things in an unsafe manner. So for children with additional needs, special needs or maybe some developmental delays, the approach obviously has to be more individualized. For instance, children with speech delays or motor delays may benefit from more simple, clear, short instructions, repetition, so repeating the same phrases over and over again, more hands-on and movement-based guidance. So I will help them mimic that movement first, support first with simple words. Then as they feel it and they hear it, then they're able to execute it on their own later on. So overall, it's about meeting the child where they are. Yes. Understanding how they learn, how they regulate, and then adjusting the approach so that they feel safe and supported, so that they're able to progress at their own pace, but at the same time still being challenged. Yeah. There's definitely no one size fits all.
Talking to you is just like talking to a very experienced therapist that has been working in this line for many years, But actually, you are not specialized just only in special needs kids. You are actually a climbing coach, for neurotypical kids. But because of your background, you really have so much understanding, and I think you also do a lot of research and
yes, definitely.
and your homework, in guiding them. Yeah.
Put a lot of effort and heart.
Because I want to be able to help and not be a deterrent to them. Yeah. So, and a lot of times it requires second decisions. You have to change it as you go. A child may come like neurotypical or divergent. A child may come very happy, and then suddenly like they slip on the wall. It's very common. You're not able to climb without falling. Falling is a part of climbing, and we mentioned that in our safety briefing video as well. So you need to learn how to fall safely, but at the same time it scares you. But when a child is obviously will experience different levels of emotions following a slip or a fall, but how do you come in? Is my support actually helping? A lot of times we offer support that we think is beneficial but may not help the person that we're trying to help out. So definitely a lot of research has to be done to be able to support them in a very, I would say, wholesome way. And it's just good that climbing is a very holistic tool, I would say, to teach these kids.
I have the perception that, as a doctor, you are trained to give advice. But what you are doing and the method that you are practicing now is you train yourself to listen to what they need, what's their problem, and then you guide them together to have the breakthrough. but you're not just standing down there and say, hey, do this, do that,
Yeah.
which is very different. And it helps the children to really learn.
Yes, that's the way actually to keep them engaged with you. Yeah. Giving just instructions doesn't usually work.
Yeah, that's why I can see that the children really like her so much.
It helps that I really, really love children. I think they also can feel, like when
That this person is just so, you love them
yes,
too, right?
yes,
They
yes.
can feel that you are on their side, you're really on their team. You're not here to just challenge them to stretch themselves, but you're
yes.
here to support them. And when they are ready, they will stretch themselves. I think that's a very big difference that I observe from what you share.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Okay. So moving forward, just now we talked about safety, and then we also want to talk a little bit more about what safety measures are in place to ensure that children are secure while climbing. I know that Cheryl would like to bring us around.
Yeah,
and
I can
show
bring you all
us.
around. Yeah.
So we will put in the safety measures part at the end of the episode.
Okay.
Right, so stay tuned to the end of the episode if you want to see, take a tour about the place also. Yeah. Okay. So just like I talked about, your methods support people to have the breakthrough, right? So could you share a memorable story or things that really stick to your heart at this moment? The kind of breakthrough moment from a child that you're working with?
I have many stories actually because every child's progress is actually very dear
Personal.
to heart. Yes, it's very I would say fulfilling to see them progress in their own ways. For example, like I had one student who came not making any eye contact at all, not watching where he or she is holding, and then the legs just kind of like moving around to feel the hole, and then the moment it touches something, then only they step. So from that to intentionally like looking at the hole, holding, moving the hands, then looking down to the legs and stepping properly. Because as you can see, some holes are very small. They are not all big and nice. So it requires very intentional movements.
Yeah.
So to see how far they have come, and knowing that this will help them in their day-to-day lives is very big. But I do have one standout moment with this child of mine, this student of mine who has ASD level 1. He has a mild fear of heights. So obviously he has been progressing well at lower levels. But whenever we reach to the higher part of the wall, especially this kind of walls where what we call overhang, then you would see him getting overwhelmed, But he's been building his strength, he's been learning techniques, and able to execute them very well on the lower portion. So a big part of our work together was focused on emotional regulation, learning how to manage that fear. We work on breathing, self-awareness, using very simple self-affirmations like, if I can climb up, I can climb down. Or I can pause, I can take a breath, I can try again. So earlier this year, he joined his first climbing competition. And obviously, there was a lot of prep work, before that. And the biggest concern would be that that his mom or myself couldn't be close to him.
Because of the competition.
Yes, because of the competition. Because during coaching settings, I'm always just a couple of steps away, if not directly below him. So he had to have that mental prep work. So part of our breathing exercises, normally we would hold hands, and every time I ask him to inhale, we will put our hands up and then exhale, hands down. It's easier for them to manage the pace of breathing when you have a physical movement coupled along with it. But on competition day, he's going to be alone. He's going to be on the mats, and parents and coaches or spectators have to be like, cordoned off.
Yeah.
Yes. So what we did with him was we asked him to squeeze his hands together, mimicking, a hug or some sort of physical comfort.
Okay.
But rather than it coming from an external source, it is him providing himself that physical comfort. And so during the competition, he was doing well, until he attempted a more challenging route. And that really pushed him. He got stuck at a higher point and had a bit of breakdown because that part of the route was particularly hard. It required him to stretch to his full span, and it's not easy to exert force when you're fully stretched out like that. So when he came down, from the back, his mom and I acknowledged that it must have been scary, but we reminded him, you have a choice. You can rest and try something else, or you can go back and try again if you wanted to. After a moment, he calmed himself down. You could see him squeezing his hands together. He did his breathing, he closed his eyes, and independently, he went up to the route again. Rather than giving up, he went back to it. And then after, when he reached that same difficult section, you could see him pause. He looked around. He was testing out, try different ways. And then after that, when he realized that, I have to go like full span, he took a breath on the wall. He looked down, he took a deep breath on the wall, and then he made that move. He committed fully to that move. And when he completed that route, he came down with the biggest smile on his face.
Aww.
And you could see how proud he was of himself, So, like, cherry on top was he ended up placing third in the competition, but that wasn't the highlight. For me, the real breakthrough was, to watch him face something that had always stopped him, during our coaching classes, and to see him try again anyway. And the ability to self-regulate, the ability to push himself through a challenge, and then getting over whatever fear or limitations at that moment. I think that's something that he will carry with him beyond climbing, and that is, to me, like one of the most memorable moments as a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think nothing is more precious than seeing someone overcome their personal hurdle, and this kind of resilience quality, right?
Yeah.
Definitely there will be other challenges in the
Yes.
next few years or in the future, will actually be very strong ingredient like to support him to overcome other new challenges.
Yes. And his mom shared with me, it actually translates over to other aspects of his life as well, because when he's reminded of how difficult the thing was for him on the wall, and then as he tried again and again, and then things became easier. So that mindset actually shifted to, him being able to apply it in his day-to-day life. So whenever he's trying something difficult outside of climbing, it's easier for him to tap into that mindset, you know. So in a way, we're kind of providing them tools for their daily lives, which is the most rewarding part, I would say, about doing this. Yeah.
Yes. And I would say that I would like to give you the credit where you actually prepared a very detailed social story for him.
Yes.
I think social story is always come from therapists, always come from the team, come from parents. But you did a very detailed, exactly how he need to complete the whole competition, what is the expectation, wow, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, because I wanted him to feel, because we see the potential, right? As his mom, as parents or as educators, as coaches, teachers. Sometimes we see the potential in the child, but it's a little bit hard for them to see big picture things like that.
Visualize
Yes.
until you really put in
Yes.
visual. And I see a lot of colorful picture, which there is the ending part and what you need to do when you touch that and all this thing. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. We almost come to the end. Yeah. So maybe the last question, what message would you like to leave for families exploring these new activities for their children?
I think the most important thing is to stay open, and while creating a safe and supportive space for your child, because in whatever we do, progress is not always linear. It's usually very dynamic. There will be good days, there will be more challenging days, and it's all part of the process, Even when you're progressing also, some days you might just feel a little bit no mood, a little bit physically tired. So what matters most is actually to give these children an opportunity to try, and experience some level of challenge. We can't always protect them because the world outside is harsh. We don't know what is out there, but we want to equip them as best as we can. So to be able to support them, give them the opportunity to try and keep, like you said, pushing on. to live another day, you know, with that same patience and understanding, and not letting the fear of failure get in the way, I think is very important, because often it's in those moments of failure that, you know, real growth actually happens.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, that's to whatever you do, just stay open and keep trying. Yeah.
So Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your all your experience and your ideas and all your research, I would say, that you have done in coaching children in rock climbing and how to support them. It's truly encouraged to hear this, and we also would like to take this opportunity to thank Batu Gym and also Batu Kids, for
sponsoring the
this.
venue to allow us to really be able to on-site and produce an episode like this to help us to visually can understand and also be more easier for us to relate to what are we talking about, what color, what's
What
shape,
our walls
I
and
think
all
you
these
can
things.
see.
Yeah. Okay. So to all parents listening, sometimes we really need to try out different activities in order to know our kids' strength and talent. So never give up. For me, I always advise parents, if you when they are 4-5 years old, you know, it's good to try before they really into primary school, because a lot of time when they started primary, academic becomes something that
a lot of things to do.
they have to go tuition and all these things, you know. Before primary is a good time that to expose them to swimming, to rock climbing, to even horse riding, you know, art class and all these things. Yeah, so many activities. And some parents say, how long I need to try? I would say always put a 3 to 4 months time, you know, to try out this. Give some time for the kids, you know, to try that out. And sometimes maybe they don't like it for the first attempt. Maybe another 2 more years later, you try again, that becomes something that they like, you know.
I just want to share there's 2 things that very stick to my mind. One thing is what Cheryl say. Falling is part of climbing.
Yes.
Agree.
Which means having setback is also part of how we grow, right? And there's another saying that I always tell people is you fall down 7 times, you get up the 8th time. So I think this is where we have to have this kind of mindset, and doing this activity does, from the example and story we hear, does support a child and also give parents more hope, and also maybe some me time when waiting outside. There's a cafe there. And because you're stayed to the end, do remember that we will be sharing the safety measures part as well. And with that, we see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, welcome to Batu Kids, where fun meets you. Now before we get to the fun, here are a few things you need to know. So pay attention. And remember, no buckles on the floor or mats. Now kids, this is very important. No running, jumping, or throwing things. Stay off the mats when you're not bad. Okay guys, I know you're itching to climb. So here are a few more things before I let you go. Empty your pockets before climbing. Wear climbing shoes. No barefoot climb. If a hole breaks or shins, now stop immediately. Never climb over the top of the walls. Use the gray holes to climb down safe. Most importantly, falling is a part of climbing. So here's how you fall safe. Make sure no one is close to you. Land both feet, bend your knees, cup your arms, and roll back.
So inside Batu Kids, the walls are built very, I would say, intentionally. This section of the wall is the easier part. So it's more suitable for children of younger age groups, beginners, or children with special needs, or children with fear of heights. Because as you can see, it's not quite as high up. The holes are all very close together. For the feet, the foot placements are all very close together and predictable. The distances are pretty much the same. So rather than climbing, because typically in bouldering, we climb a certain color from the bottom, and then we reach to the top, and then we match our hands at the last hole in a controlled manner. That's how we typically finish. But on this wall, rather than going upwards, they can go sideways. So they can practice their footwork here, moving their feet side to side like this, and making their way through all the way to the end. So there are a variety of holds here, some better grip, some not quite as nice, but they can choose. So this is how they learn. They can cross their feet, they can match their feet, they can match their hands together. So this is easy for them. So as the children progress, when they're more comfortable with moving, shifting body weight already, that's when we start introducing color-coded climbs. Here in Side by Two Kids, we have a variety of grades. So this is one of the harder ones. So as you can see, the wall over here is what we call slightly overhanging. So that comes in a certain degree versus a straight wall like this. So naturally, this route would be harder to climb compared to the straight wall. Over here, we have the auto belay wall. So why it's called auto belay is because we have a machine up there that the rope is attached to, and we will clip it onto our harness, our safety harness. So once we climb up, we can let go and the rope will let us down safely. I will demonstrate. Oops. This is how we put on our harness. So first things first, we have to secure the belt. It has to sit above the hips. So what I tell my students is, it has to be above your belly button. It's a clear anatomical point that they can easily recognize, and then they will remember. And after we have secured the belt, then we can tighten the leg loops. And then this is where we keep the straps so that they don't flap around. Because for children, they might accidentally step on it. So once our harness is secure, we can do a safety check to make sure the harness is put on correctly. So what we do is we take one hand, we slide it in, we make a fist, and if you can't pull your fist out, that means your harness is good. So now I can release my fist and then let go. So this part, we need to clip into the rope. This will only be done by coaches or the crew members here. We usually do not let the kids do it by themselves, just in case they don't secure it well enough. Our carabiner here comes with a safety feature where there's a twisting lock gate. So you actually have to push it up, twist it, then only you can open it. So it's very secure, and then we do final check. When it's locked, then we can begin our climb. So kids over here, they have the option of using two colors or a single color depending on the difficulty. When I reach the top, when I'm ready to come down, what I do is I square my hips to the wall, I bend my knees a little bit, and 1, 2, 3, I hold the rope and I kick off. Kick off. So this is how we come down safely. So when it comes to safety in a climbing gym, it comes from both the facility itself and as well as the coaching, I would say. From a facility standpoint, the climbing gyms are usually equipped, built with safety measures in place already. So we mentioned earlier, for bouldering, it comes with thick padded mats. So as you can see, it's really soft and bouncy, but yet not too soft that your legs cave when you land on it. Typically, the mats are about 20 to 30 centimeters thick to ensure a safe padding when you fall. And when it comes to a facility standpoint, if you can look here, these are what we call down climb jugs. So the route setters, the people who put the holds up the walls, usually they will include down climb holes in between routes so that the children can come down safely. So for example, if I'm climbing up, usually we go by color, and then when I reach the top, rather than jumping all the way down or just dropping, I can come down. I can use back the same color holes, or I can use these big, large holes for additional support, and then only do my safety fall. I land on my feet, bend my knees, tuck my arms, and roll back. So this is what we call a safe way of falling. Yeah, so this is the safety measures in place. However, Not all children are able to execute that kind of fall. Or sometimes when they're trying to go for a difficult move, for example, they might miss the hole. It's not uncommon. Even as adults, when we're going for a difficult move, we might miss the hole. So as a coach, this is where observation comes in. I have to constantly watch their body position, watch their grip. If they were to step, for example, not ideally, and I notice that there's a risk of slipping. Or for example, they're holding, okay, all the holes here are quite nice, but if they're holding a smaller hole or a slopier hole, and I know it's very hard to maintain grip on that, I would either what we call spot, so I get ready in the fall zone, ready to ensure, not to catch the kid, but to ensure that the kid lands on both feet. Then I quickly move away so that he or she can roll back. Or alternatively, if they're really stuck on the wall already, then we would provide light support. So by holding the child close to the wall so that they don't have to exert their physical strength to maintain their position on the wall, then we slowly guide them. So usually we either use laser pointers or pointing with our fingers to guide them down the routes until they get to a safe height, which then they can do their safety fall. So these are all the measurements in place. It's not just the facility itself, but it comes with active supervision to ensure a safe and fun climb.